water is at this stage. First 5 compartments are flooding. The iceberg, or due to the, Titanic finally coasts to a halt, bow facing northwest, drifting, with the Titanic drifting in the Labrador Current in a bow facing northwest, due to Murdoch's manoeuvre during the collision. Well, it's now 10 minutes since collision of the iceberg. Water is so far 10 feet into the cargo hold. Water is 14 feet. The G-deck is starting to submerge. For those in the mail room, observe. G-deck is still above water. Well, Thomas Andrews as well notes that there was 14 feet in first 10 minutes post collision. Around about this time, those in boiler room 5 have noticed water coming out of the coal bunker. All fires in the boiler rooms are all being, apart from fires in boiler rooms, in several boiler rooms, apart from are all being cooled to avoid risk of a catastrophic implosion if water interacts. If this did happen, this would have killed anyone still on board. The boilers have to be cooled to avoid risk of a catastrophic implosion. Well, Titanic had several safe features. It had 16 watertight compartments separated by 15 watertight bulkheads. However, these bulkheads matched only rose as high as E-deck. On E-deck as well, there was a long corridor called Scotland Road which went the length of the ship. Water flooded Scotland Road. This would later contribute to a heavy port list later in the sinking. Well, evacuation, post-COVID, was used for policy of women and children first. This was because of this was called the Birkenhead drill. It was named after a ship called the HMS Birkenhead, which struck a rock in 1852. Well, it began to sink. Well, an evacuation was ordered, and one by one the boats were lowered until the Birkenhead broke in two. Well, it had 20 women and children on board. Well, after Birkenhead broke into and sank, sharks would later come in and feed off of the living and the dead. Later, a schooner would arrive and quite a few hundred would have been killed by it, but all the women and children survived, hence why it was called the Birkenhead drill. Now 11:55 p.m. on the night of April 14th, 1912. Well, the lights below, like the lights in the boiler room 5, briefly go off, and Frederick Barrett, his auditor, grabs some lamps. Well, the steam venting from the funnels as well will lead to confusion later in the sinking. A quick shout out to the following for providing me with information about the Titanic: Ocean Liner Designs, Historic Travels, Titanic Honour and Glory, Titanic Animations, the book Honesty of Glass, and several smaller Titanic channels such as Shingoji and Danny Dross. Shout out to all of them for providing me with information. Please subscribe to their channels as they make really good videos on Titanic. The steam venting will later cause communication issues. Several orders will end up getting misinterpreted or not heard correctly, and well, Titanic was known, there has also been a rumour, like a myth, that Titanic was called an unsinkable ship. However, it was actually referred to as, however, the only mention of it being unsinkable was in an advert saying that, by White Star Line saying that it was unsinkable as they could make it. Titanic also had several other safety features, such as a double bottom, which was 2 layers compared to the rest of the hull, which was 1 layer. Later, when scrapping the Olympic, they find it was actually 10 times harder to destroy than the rest of the ship. It's been proposed that the keel had failed first, but recently tests by Park Simpson say that the keel could have bent 90 degrees and still remain strong. This could also be aided by the fact that if it wasn't like this, then Titanic would have sunk in any storm it would have met which would not have been wanted. Another rumour is that Titanic and Olympic switched. However, this has also been disproven. While some passengers are starting to wake up and realise that they've stopped, they ask some stewards why they've stopped. The stewards say that they've hit an iceberg but stopped to avoid issues, like to avoid like ice damaging the run or like running into anything. Meanwhile, damage inspections are being held from below. It is now midnight on the morning of Monday, April 15th, 1912. So around about this time, Frederick Fleet and Reginald Lee are relieved from the crow's nest by two other lookouts. However, these lookouts would later be called from their duty and told they have to evacuate. So around about this time as well, water has flooded the mail room. The mail clerks were last seen, attempted to save the mail, but are only not able to save all of the bags. Well, the mail clerks are actually the first to notice water coming in to their room on G deck. By now it has been, well, everyone, well, the captain and crew have realised that Titanic is doomed and they will need to be evacuated. Well, after damage inspections, like, the captain orders, they aren't sure yet if Titanic will sink, but around at this time the captain orders the crew to start to rouse the passengers and prepare the lifeboats in case they need to evacuate.